Hello everyone, today we're going to beat RimWorld, the most chaotic colony building game ever made. A game where chaos is the norm and absolutely everything is trying to end you. And yes, I do mean everything. Oh look, a cute little guinea pig. Perfect pet for colony, right? Wrong. Now he's part of a rabid gang of guinea pigs attempting to overthrow humanity. Just a typical Tuesday in RimWorld, followed by Wednesday where you become a bug exterminator for elephant-sized insects, and then Thursday where Mechanoids intrude on your lawn so you get to test out your new orbital strike weapon. And if you manage to survive despite all the chaos, you find yourself 12 years into the future, ready to escape the planet you've been stranded on. And that brings us here today, where we have acquired the materials to build a rocket to take my 21 colonists off this ruthless planet. The only issue is the rocket takes 15 days to charge the reactor, and in that time, every single other person, insect, or mechanoid also wants off the planet, so they're going to raid my base mercilessly. In preparation, I've stockpiled a massive backlog of cooked meals to last well over the 15 days, crafted enough med packs to cure every known and unknown illness known to man, and engineered the most diabolical kill boxes that me as a first-time RimWorld player could make. If the kill boxes fail, which I fully expect they will, have an arsenal of doomsday and triple shot rocket launchers to take out large groups of enemies along with anything and everything in the nearby area. If I'm going down, I'm taking everyone with me. With all my contingency plans, my colony is about as prepared as it can get. But in doing so, my wealth has skyrocketed to just a little bit under 1.5 million. Which I'm told is a bad thing because the raid difficulty scales with wealth, meaning the odds of all 21 of my colonists surviving the 15-day long raid are extremely low, so I think it's important you get to meet them all and choose who you want to see survive. So here are the 21 mostly sane colonists we've collected. I say mostly because Evo is a psychopath, but that just means he's a chill guy that doesn't mind the occasional black market organ harvesting. That's besides the point though, and we'll get back to him. For clarity, I've broken them all into 3 groups. There is, how did we get here? Who are you? And sure, welcome aboard. Starting with the how did we get here group, these 3 unfortunate travelers crash landed on this planet with nothing and somehow made a functioning colony with the 3 collective brain cells they share. My personal favorite colonist is Doug, the melee maniac who refuses to use a gun. He's a brawler by nature, so it gets increased melee and melee hit chance, with the only drawback being he actively hates his life whenever he picks up a gun. So I gave him a sharp silver spear instead, which made him our master negotiator with troublesome raiders. He typically stays at the back of the pack, standing menacingly as a deterrent. Once the raiders get their fill of lead bullets and flee, it's Doug's time to shine. The last phrase the raiders hear is me shouting, "Get him, Doug." And if they turn around to see what that means, they find out real quick as Doug resolves their differences. Aside from being a bloodlusting melee tank, he's also been our primary construction worker, the sole reason why we have a base to call home. Then there is Smell. I've never been entirely sure how to say his name, with Alexander being the weirdest spelling I've ever seen and Smell being some Nordic origin, but that's what I'm going with. He's a simple man who was one of our main researchers that learned how to manufacture powerful weapons, craft more durable armor, and uncovered through the research tree how to build the rocket to escape the planet. His most defining obstacle was when he got a birthday surprise in our first year where he got debilitated by a bad back, moving at half his original speed, but has since been resolved by replacing his spine with a bionic one, along with his eyes, arms, stomach, heart, and legs. Arguably not human anymore, but I've done the same upgrade for the entire colony, so he fits right in. Then there is Luxemburg. She was also a key researcher in the early days, but now has the simple life of a farmer along with being a doctor on the side. 2 job roles that don't really go together, but at least for her that makes sense with them both being her highest stats. I also consider her the leader of the colony with her excellent social skills, able to negotiate deals or rehabilitate prisoners to join the colony. On the side, she always aspired to be a body modder, and now she's more machine than human, so she's quite happy, but not happy enough to put aside her jealousy of always needing the best bedroom that I solved by just shoving more statues in to make it nicer. On the social side, she is by far the most complicated and difficult. For starters, she is the ex-lover of Doug, so not the best person to crash land on an alien planet with if you're Doug, but they put aside her differences long enough to survive, so it all worked out. She's also related to, I swear, over half the people on this planet. Every time we get raided, it's like, oh no, her uncle, 2 kids, and grandchild are now dead, making her mad and potentially angry at everybody else in the colony. I don't know what to tell you, Luxemburg. They fired first, and I think it's more a parenting issue on your end. Regardless of all their many imperfections, they're the main reason the colony we have is still here today. Next on our onboarding process is the Who Are You group. These are the first few people I convinced to join my colony that I recognize but don't fully know how they got here, so I'm kind of guessing. Starting with Aardvark. Pretty sure she was a wild animal wandering around my base, and I was like, hey, here's some corn. And she was like, cool, I live here now. And has since been our mining expert, gaining resources like steel or uranium for weapon production and limestone for building walls. Her special trait has been being a magnet attracting bullets during every raid. At one point she lost an eye so she couldn't see, along with a missing jaw and big toe. That's all been rectified with all her body parts being bionic now, so the bullets may still be hitting her, but she can't tell. Then there is Bucky, that I think we Dragon Ball Z style fought her as an enemy in a raid, then afterwards we're like, hey, you're pretty tough. You're my friend now. And joined the colony. She's been our lead farmer that made our yayo drug production possible. Without it, we would not be nearly as rich or well equipped with weapons. All the neighboring settlements that used to be our enemy are now our friend and give us money, so it's had a net positive effect on the planet. The only other fun detail about Bucky is she lost some toes and fingers when we got attacked by a rabid herd of guinea pigs. They were cute and horrifying at the same time, and I'm still not sure how to feel about that day. Then there is Greg. He's all around just a beast at shooting and melee attacks, so he's an excellent soldier. We found him held hostage in a cryo tank by some giant insects that we took care of, and he was more than happy to join our colony since we saved him. Then there is Izzy, another foe turned into our friend, who is one of our cooks. Most notably, her and Fagel Smell were the first married couple and are still together, but not without some saucy bits when Paul joined the colony, which I can introduce right now. Absolutely no idea where he came from, but easily one of the most important and pivotal colonists in the success of the colony. I acquired him mainly to be our head medic, with his past as a prosthetic surgeon, making him the ideal operator to turn every one of my colonists into super soldiers. Even if the body parts were healthy, they got replaced with the superior bionic version. On the side, he used his social skill to negotiate trade deals with orbital traders, and was for a long time the most competent crafter of the colony. If Paul wasn't busy enough already, he married Bucky, which lasted all of 3 years until he divorced her, and became a homewrecker, being Izzy's secret lover for 5 of her 10-year-long marriage. Just recently becoming her ex-lover, with Izzy coming to her senses and staying with her loyal husband Fagel Smell, who somehow didn't divorce her. I highly respect Fagel Smell for that. But Paul, stop that. No more polygamy for you. The next colonist is Amelia, who yet again, I have no idea where she came from, but I much appreciate her as a secondary construction worker with Doug. Thankfully, she has been very unproblematic and just vibing, for the most part. There was that one time where the next colonist I'll introduce domed her in the head with a sniper bullet. How does that even happen? I'm not sure. She was downrange, so it's kind of on her, but come on. Luckily, over time, our kitty has gotten better with his shooting ability and became the perfect platform for the Super Soldier Mark II. With every colonist getting bionic parts to improve shooting accuracy, running speed, and task completion times, I chose him to get archetype parts that I had to buy off the black market, making him an even more deadly killing machine. I chose him for the upgrades because he had traits like sanguine that made him naturally happy and being a fast learner, along with having a passion for shooting. So with all those combined, he was the perfect platform to go out on caravan missions where recreation wasn't very common and stress was very high. So with him being a very happy war machine, he was perfect. He's also our lead animal tamer. Another preparation I made for the final stand, with us having ample amounts of Megasloths, Thrumbos, and Wargs to be essentially meat shields, totaling to 52 Wargs, 17 Megasloths, and 3 Thrumbos, which I'm still surprised they tamed because apparently they're nearly impossible, but I am not complaining. Next on the list is Venimud. Yeah, he's dead now, but he was alive until some unfortunate circumstances. I plan on covering that when I introduce the next group of colonists, so all you need to know for now is this man made one heck of an entrance. He frantically sent us a quest to give him a shelter from the pirates chasing him. We obliged, and this dude came streaking from the north, butt naked, trying to take shelter in our humble little colony. I had just enough time to get all the colonists ready, and then boom, the pirates landed right into our scanner room, tearing up absolutely everything in sight. We did end up fending them off, and Vaymon joined us as our butcher. That was all fine until the incident happened. But before the incident, the next 3 colonists had an interesting background. They all were part of the raid of pirates that blasted through the roof of the base. I'm sure Venomon didn't like it, but I needed all of them desperately. Evo had a passion for shooting and melee, so he was a great fighter. Sure, he had asthma and was a psychopath, but we don't really judge that in the Chaos Colony. I also had a hunch on how to cure his asthma, so it wasn't a deal breaker. Like, it was similar to Evo, with even more passion for shooting and melee. Along with being sanguine, just like Arcady, a careful shooter, so she's just by default better at shooting and more accurate, and has a great memory, so for her skills, they don't degrade over time as quickly as other people. The only drawback is she got frail with her old age, so she moves a little slower, still near 100% with bionic legs, but slower than everyone else. Without the frail trait, I would have made her the ultimate super soldier instead of Arcady, because of her careful shooter trait making her significantly more accurate. Leiko may have held a grudge against Arcady for taking her super soldier spot because she married him just to divorce him 3 years later. They're both doing fine now, being in good standing with each other. And on the bright side, what was Arcady's loss is now Doug's gain, because Leiko just married him. I have to admit, I was a little concerned about Doug finding love in this landscape, with him being a VR addict in the past, causing him to be unable to socialize. But despite the odds, he has managed to do it, and I'm curious how he actually achieved it without talking. But I guess we'll never know. As for the final X-Powder Purple, he also has insanely good shooting stats and is a farmer on the side. Overall an unproblematic colonist, and is the second longest marriage, being with Aardvark. That brings us to the end of the Who Are You group, and brings us to the Sure Welcome Aboard group. All of them were kind of adopted on a whim and weren't inherently needed, but who was I to turn them away? This was also around the point I internalized RimWorld was an amazing story-driven game that I had to make a video on, so I actually have some footage of their origin. So now we're transitioning from introductions focused on the crew members to the story of what happened over the last 8 years. And if you thought this character introduction was unhinged, just you wait. 8 years ago, the only guarantee in my colony was that everything would fail constantly. For example, a herd of rats with bombs attached to them arrived at my front door, and this is how it went. Paul! Oh no, run! Run, Paul, run through the fire! This is going perfectly as planned. But we did eventually learn through brutal trial and error and many hospital visits. As for human raids, we got those down to a science. My early strategy was walls for cover, barricades to slow enemies down as colonists picked them off, and Doug to clean up the rest. Oh, they're running away. Doug, get them. Oh, wait, the other group is still coming. Doug, get out of there. It's dangerous. Wait, ooh, kite them. Yeah, Doug, distract them. You're doing great. Oh no, he's down. The plan was clearly flawed in many ways, this time learning Doug was not invincible and was more of a janitor for after the fight. Along with Doug on the ground needing help, there were also some raiders I wanted to rehabilitate to join my colony. We got Legua Billy. They're really good at social and intellectual, which I do like, along with shooting, but they're a misandrist, so they'd hate literally half the colony, which wasn't a total deal breaker, so we took her home to heal up. There were originally 2 other prisoners along with her, but sadly their injuries were too severe, leaving Legua as the sole survivor. She was addicted to smoke leaf and wrapped like a mummy, but otherwise she was fine. While Luxemburg worked on recruiting her, a wild recam entered the map. Turns out she loved art, which made her the perfect for laundering drug money. She quickly joined us with the help of some corn, and I had a perfect job for her, being the cremation of Legua's 2 old friends. Aardvark had been sleeping with one for a couple of days, and apparently that was bad because she now had rot lung. We were eventually able to treat it, so it all worked out, but a note to self, do not sleep with dead bodies. When we weren't being raided by people, the Mechanoids picked up the slack, this time landing with a defoliator ship to kill all the plants in the nearby area. With my colonists far outmatched in a fight, I skipped every stage of grief and went straight to acceptance that they would be a permanent resident of the colony. What are they really doing? They're defoliating stuff, so they're just gonna kill some trees? I think I can live with that. They're in the bottom corner. Fire's already kind of doing that. And I mean, come on. I got a plague going across all my crops, so I was kind of doing it to myself anyway. I did end up checking on them 1 season later, and yeah, those plants looked quite dead. But they never touched my cycloid fields, so I had no beef with them. But just in case relations ever did sour, I upgraded my kill box to have even more turrets. Good thing I did, because their siblings decided to join the party. I didn't like that they were here, but since they showed up, they could at least be useful as our test dummies. So I fired a few mortar shots for the first time and found out that they were horrendously inaccurate, missing 4 out of 5 times. But when they did land, the damage was decent. As for the kill box, it served its purpose pretty well. For the Mechanoids' weaker troops like Lancers or Scythers, they got mowed down with ease. Scythers were a bit annoying, going straight for the turrets and destroying them, which was also their downfall because the turrets exploded when destroyed. Their beefier centipedes were daunting at first with their energy blasts going in every direction, but they weren't too accurate, and with my colonists sheltered behind walls, we got no injuries. The main annoyance was the pickmen, who were deadly accurate and fired from outside of even my sniper's range. So Doug had to go and teach him what hand-to-hand combat was, and before we knew it, the raid was over, with absolutely no injuries. Even though the raid was a huge success, our recently acquired colonist Legua was fighting her own internal battle of smoke leaf withdrawal. My method of rehab was stopping her cold turkey, which she didn't quite like and relapsed by binging an even harder substance, psychite. A small hiccup in her path to sobriety, but we were here for her. In support of her internal battle, I overcame my fear of the defoliator ships and used my freshly built mortars to aggravate them. They were plenty angry, but not funneling into the kill chamber I made just for them, so I sent Doug out as a fishing lure to entice them over. They followed for a short bit, but saw through our plans of leading them into the kill box. So we took the fight to them with EMP mortar support to paralyze them as they were filled with bullets. And it went mostly as planned. Oh yeah, Doug is the MVP here. Are any more mortar shots coming in? Oh yeah, there is. Wait, Doug, get out of there. He's overwhelmed. No, Doug is down. Oh no. Come on. Doug, are you alright? We're going with a very strong maybe because he is going to bleed out in a day, but at least all the mechs are now dead and their ship is gone as well. They just left 5 of my colonists with the presence of fibrous Mechanoids. The good news was it made them move and work faster, but they were in constant pain for the next 2 years since I had no cure. My only concern was with Venimon, who was 80 at this point. Not wanting to just be the world's punching bag, I started accepting quests from neighboring factions to remove troublesome outposts from existence, all for the low price of their goodwill, so they'd pay us back in the future. All the raids went more or less the same: set up your crew behind a makeshift barrier for cover, engage in a firefight until they eventually flee, and then hunt as many of them down before they get away. In this raid though, the raiders weren't what I should have focused on. It should have been the turret because it single-handedly has done the most damage to my colony, with one of its lucky bullets giving Venimon a mangled brain scar, causing him to have difficulty talking, eating, and even barely being conscious. He was no longer the same person afterwards, even declaring he hated civilization and wanted to run wild with the animals. His only saving grace was that fibrous Mechanites were one of the few things keeping him alive, boosting his movement speed and blood flow. We tried taming him with the classic bucket of corn trick we used on Aardvark and Rakam, but he wasn't having it. While the tamers kept trying, I sent Legua on a trade mission to look into Luciferium. It claimed it could heal brain scars, but would drive the user insane if not taken every 6 days, so it wasn't a good option, especially considering Legua just overcame her addiction. While I kept searching for ways to help Venimon, Hicks from Northeast Tomb crash-landed in my colony and needed help. Northeast Tomb was my enemy at the time, so I took it as an opportunity to befriend them by healing her back to full health and returning her home. I also gifted them enough VO to make even an elfin high, which they quite liked, making us go from kill on sight to hesitate slightly before attacking, which happened no more than an hour later. My best guess is they were high on the yo I just gifted them and thought attack me was a good idea. So I hastily evacuated my caravan from their camp and sent them home while I got everyone else ready for war. The biggest surprise was them setting up their own defenses instead of blindly running into my kill box. So it was time to rain down mortar shells until they had no choice to come to me. Oh no, wait, incendiary? Oh, where's that going? I think everybody needs to scatter. Don't know where they're aiming. Oh, they went there. Doug, I'm gonna put you on firefighter duty. They're trying to burn us out. Oh, geez, they have 2 mortars? No! They lit my explosives on fire. Okay, I think I have more people on firefighter duty. Oh, we did land a hit. And it's almost taken out. Okay, so we just need to land 2 hits. And then their mortars are gone. Looks like we got maybe 5 more shots. Jail smell is putting out the fire. Oh, that was really close to us. Guys, keep putting out the fire. Leko, let's have you move a little bit closer. Yes, he's within distance. Oh, he can take out the mortar. Do it, Leko. Yes, I think that was a hit. Mortar, that was a hit. Oh, yes, it's blowing up. Take that, lamp. Oh, yeah, this is the move. Oh, and we got another one blowing up. That's what you get. Get back in, guys. They found us. They're angry. I think they're gonna try to bust through the door. Oh yeah, that's not gonna hold long. Doug, you know what? Go in there. Go get him. Doug, you got it. Oh no, they got another shield guy. Don't want him doing a 2v1. Get out of there, Doug. Let your friends take it. Oh yeah. Look at that kill box. Are they coming around? Ooh, they are coming around the other side. I think our mortars should do a decent job pulling them off. Okay, they're distracted. That's good. Take them out the front gates. Yes, downed. Guy with the sword is tearing up all those. Oh, and they're fleeing. Doug, don't let them do it. Nobody leaves. Oh yeah, stunned him. No, Doug's down. Everybody, you're not attacking them. You should be. Okay, awesome. That honestly went better than I thought it would. Unfortunately, the Mechanoids thought so as well, so no more than a day later they attacked to finish off the colony for good. My crew was battered and not in the right mental state for another fight, so I called in a favor to my good old pals for the Wazders. These guys were longtime trait partners and were happy to help, arriving in mere seconds, landing their drop pods right into battle before I could even draft my few remaining colonists able to fight. By the time I got there to help, the fight was already over, making me thankful they were on my side. The Wazders had a few deaths on their end, with one guy still clinging to life, so I had Paul rush him to the hospital to be saved. Sure, he had a bandage list as long as a CVS receipt, but we did save him, and the Wazders were very appreciative. Grudgingly, I also released Hicks back to northeast to him. They may have just attacked us, but I knew we could eventually be friends with her release. While we rebuilt, Vivian crash landed in her base, needing medical attention. With her not being part of any faction, I recruited her as an item hauler and floor sweeper. As you have probably figured out by now, peace didn't last long with yet another raid. They were quite unorganized, allowing us to pick them off quite easily, and for those unlucky enough to survive and be captured, I had something I wanted to test. At this point, Evo still had asthma, and I had a hunch that if I borrowed one of the prisoner's lungs, I could cure his asthma with a transplant. My initial test with Mitch yielded the groundbreaking discovery that removing someone's heart is fatal. So for Elvira, I started by borrowing her lung, kidney, and then the heart, yielding 3 viable organs for transplant. To avoid any suspicion from the IRS on how the organs were required, Evo went straight into surgery with Luxemburg doing the transplant. To my surprise, the transplant did cure his asthma in 1 lung, so now we just needed another spare lung someone was willing to donate. Our third prisoner, Addie, could have been that donor, but I saw some potential in her to be our designated Yayo producer, so she was here to stay. We all just hoped she didn't find out what happened to her other friends. To grow the colony further, I accepted a quest to rescue Bucky's father, Zane, from a pirate outpost. To ensure Zane was safely recovered, since Bucky would be sad if he died, I sent my entire colony except Venimon and Paul. Those two stayed behind because after Venimon got tamed, his movement speed had worsened when he got immune to the fibrous Mechanoids, and Paul needed to stay behind in case his health worsened. Once we arrived at the outpost, we were able to see Zane's skill capabilities, and I was delighted to see he had a burning passion for crafting, so he could help Paul with his backlog of bionic parts to make everyone super soldiers. The only thing wrong with Zane was he had asthma, but we had a cure for that now and just needed 2 more ethically acquired lungs. To get Zane back home, we did the usual hide behind a wall and fire strategy to drive the pirates out of their outpost, and then commandeered their beds to heal our wounded soldiers. With Luxemburg getting uncomfortably close to bleeding out, but Evo swooped in at the last minute and patched her up enough so she could make the trip back home. Back at home, Venimon turned the ripe old age of 83 and got the present of dementia, making him a complete vegetable unable to walk. I knew this wasn't the life he wanted, so I had Paul do the merciful thing and end his suffering under the anesthesia of surgery. Reclaiming his bionic spine, we gave him to cure his bad back, and the bionic heart that saved him from a heart attack 3 years prior. They weren't of much use to him anymore, and at least this way he would live on as part of someone else. Once the caravan returned, he was put to rest. He had struggled with his mental brain for the past year, and we all knew it was only a matter of time. In fact, an 83-year-old man survived this long on the RimWorld, was a miracle in itself and a testament to his fighting spirit. You will be missed, Venimon. You are a legend, and we will survive for you. In an attempt to come to terms with Venimon's death, I sought to cure all my colonists of their health issues, starting with curing Zane and Evo of their asthma. That meant buying 2 lungs off of the black market, and taking advantage of the massive raid the Union of Kaka sent my way. Composed of mainly tribal people with weak weapons like bows for ranged attacks and clubs for close-up. There were a lot of them, but that just meant more willing donors. Ultimately, their siege went very poorly, just acting as a prisoner restock for us. Of their 60 members who attacked, only one of them survived, which was all I needed to get the 3rd and final lung. That Zane promptly received and was cured of asthma along with Evo. The previous owner of the lung, Boar, was understandably angry and tried to break out of prison to get his lung back. But he had to go through Doug first, and we all know how that goes. With everyone in the colony back to full health, it was time to recruit someone else. That someone being Gnugfer, Arkitty's brother and Doug's uncle, who was somehow in prison. The prison was heavily protected with 11 turrets and 1 guard. I was wary of the turrets considering the last time we faced one, Venimon's brain was mangled. But the warden made it easy coming to us so we could stay out of range of the turrets as we took care of him. And as for the turrets, my snipers Lako and Arkitty picked them off while being outside of the range. Eventually taking them all out and freeing Gnugfer, who proved to be an amazing cook that could fill the spot missing since Venimon's passing. While I was breaking into Gnugfer's prison, a psychic drone ship decided to drop by my base. Paul and Addie were the only ones at home, so they couldn't really do much except slowly go insane from the drone ship as they waited for everyone else to return. By the time the caravan got back, everyone's mental state was completely gone. But we had to fight them now if we wanted to have any hope of getting back to normal. During the fight, colonists kept dropping, with Doug entering a daze and prancing across the battlefield, Rakam going back home to binge some go juice. Evelyn buried poor Venimon and posted him up in the dining room, and Greg tried to leave the colony to start a new life. I couldn't allow him to leave, so I arrested him until he was convinced to rejoin us. On the bright side, only 10 of the 19 colonists were having mental breakdowns, so just barely over half. Yes, that was failing, but we were doing it in style. Despite mental breaks, the Mechanoids were defeated, and I tried to restore order, starting with burying Venimon. But of course, in classic RimWorld fashion, we had to get raided a day later by the Union of Kaka. The best I could do in terms of defense was sending my 9 remaining colonists to the kill box. But they pulled a fast one on us and attacked from the complete opposite side of the base. Absolutely not what I wanted to see, since I had no defenses on that side, and they outnumbered me 5 to 1. So there was no possible chance of winning this fight. The colony was doomed. Unless one last plan worked. From years of dealing drugs to Wazders, we became close friends. So I sent a call to them asking for aid, and they sent their fighters to help in our battle. Now we just needed to survive until they got here. Easier said than done, but I had an idea. I've been holding onto a weapon called the Doomsday Cannon, and today, Paul would be using it to hold back the Kaka tribals. Everyone else ran across the base to find some spot to hold them back and stall while Paul got in place. He had one shot, one chance to change the course of the battle. Paul missed, the colony was done. With the weight of the world on his shoulders, he aimed the cannon into the heart of the rampaging tribals and pulled the trigger, releasing the wrath of the sun. When the dust settled, 5 tribals lay dead. Paul had actually done it. The tribals were dazed, and we gained a few seconds. Paul fell back to rearm as the Wazders joined the fight from the south. And after minutes of agonizing battle, the Kaka tribals finally broke. They fled, still destroying what they could on the way out. But I didn't care. We had survived. Any of the Kaka tribals that remained injured on the battlefield were disposed of. I couldn't allow them to return home just to attack us a day later. The only positive to the raid was all the loot they dropped, specifically the heaps upon heaps of jade. It was the perfect precious material to make a proper burial for Venimon. No more dirt hole for him, he was getting the finest casket. Evo did the honors of putting Venimon to rest to make up for his past transgressions of unburying him. There was still a lot of rebuilding to do after the raid, but we had survived and that was enough. We tried to stay peaceful following a brush with death, but the lustful seeds of revenge were planted in the colony, and we needed to put an end to the Kaka tribals. They started the war and routinely raided us, so if they refused to learn we weren't to be messed with, I would end this dispute for good. Part of rebuilding was finding even more skilled shooters to join the colony. That meant raiding outposts until someone survived and was willing to join us. My goal was to get a total of 21 colonists to fend off the ever-increasing size of raid parties attacking the colony. We found Fula as the lone survivor of a pirate outpost, and after Luxemburg bandaged her up, she joined us, bringing our colonist count to 20. Then for the final edition, we went on a quest to save Johnny, who was brutally injured and needed medical assistance. When we arrived to his location, he was the only person in sight, so the coast seemed clear, and we went in to help. But as we should have figured, it was an ambush from the Kaka tribals. They were still using spears and bows, while my crew advanced to being kitted with the best marine armor and assault rifles we could make, giving them no hope of succeeding in their ambush. And of course, per tradition, had Doug engage in a foot race with any enemy trying to escape. He's still undefeated. After our concerningly efficient takedown of the tribals, Johnny quickly joined us, not wanting us to turn on him. Spirits were high with the final crew member attained, but once home, we were greeted with potentially the worst heat wave possible. The outside temperature hit 53 degrees Celsius, which doesn't seem too bad until you compare it to the hottest recorded temperature on Earth, that is 57 degrees in Death Valley. You might be thinking, oh, that's not too bad, it's not the heat that gets you, it's the humidity. True, but wrong. I was more concerned about my freezer keeping pace than my colonists. It was meant to be blue and below freezing to keep my food from spoiling, and it was neither of those in the heat wave, resulting in over half my food supply spoiling since the 3 AC units couldn't keep up. So all the sheep and horse meat I had stockpiled for years was now gone, leaving no safety stock. I still had some prepared meals, and the heat wave did eventually end, so it all turned out alright, but I had to industrialize my freezers to outpace any future heat wave by adding even more AC units. The Kaka tribals saw us in a weakened state and tried to finish us off again. This time I had a second kill box built to cover the southern border, and it was ready to test to see if their invasion would go into the kill box or choose to break through the walls. It was about 50% effective, with half of them going into the kill box getting mowed down by the turrets, and the other half using my dining room door as their entrance. This told me that any of the doors avoiding the kill box had to be removed, and the walls needed to be double thick. But overall, I had no injuries in the slightest, and the damage to the base was minimal. Unfortunately for the Kaka tribe, I was a spiteful warlord now, and wanted them to feel the wrath of my army they had been oppressing for years. We were now 21 soldiers strong, and it was time to turn the tables and attack their home. Their base wasn't anything too impressive, but it did have some sandbags for defense, actual houses to live in, and a cute little flower garden. So maybe these guys were peaceful. Could savages really grow flowers? Yes, they could, and I was here to burn them to the ground. They've been the worst neighbor possible, and this was their eviction notice. The fight was completely unfair, with their weapons being inferior and having a smaller army, so to no one's surprise, it was over in a matter of seconds. Most of them fled directly into my firing range, with only one of them being smart and running to the east. Ah yes, tradition calls. Doug, get him! And just in case, I sent my best snipers, Arcady and Leko, to tag along, tying up the final loose end. All the other factions were ecstatic for the rival to be gone as well, even the pirates whose outposts we raid on a daily basis. I stayed at the Kaka's camp for a while after, buying up the steel and components they had in their mountains. All the resources were useful for making weapons or bionic parts, but it came at the cost of my army's sanity, with Luxemburg breaking down and going on a berserk rampage. First act of aggression was towards Evo, who accidentally killed her in defense. I say accidentally because he is a psychopath, so I'm not entirely sure. But here was my reaction anyway. Well, Luxemburg's dead. But you know what? We can test something. This is bad and awful, but I think we can actually fix it. So I packed up Luxemburg's corpse, all 2,200 kilograms of steel, and set a course to home. Once there, we were greeted by toxic fallout covering the entire base, so going outside was now deadly. That meant my horses and sheep had to crowd into the small barns I gave them, and all the crops we needed for food were now dying. Just like Luxemburg, that we needed to address immediately. So first I had to find which of the 40 caravan horses her body was hiding in. It turned out to be more difficult than I thought it would be, but I did eventually find her. With the body now sitting on the ground decaying to the toxic fallout, the next step was injecting her with one of the resurrection mech serums I got from a quest. The name implied it would revive her, so I hoped that was the case. Fortunately it was, and she joined us back in the world of the living, just needing 2 days of bed rest to overcome her resurrection sickness. Still finding time to be jealous about her bed not being the best, but come on Luxemburg, you were just dead. I think we can learn something about gratitude and let Purple have the nice bed for a night. I promise I'll give it back to you. While she healed, the other issue I had to solve was all the horses and sheep were in close quarters. This meant that if one of them died, they all would get lung rot, which was hard to treat with me having over 100 animals, and for the fact that my doctors couldn't go outside without slowing dying from the toxic fallout. So long story short, I didn't treat them at all and hoped for the best as they all came down with a case of rot lung. I started with 73 horses and 66 sheep, so I waited hoping the fallout would pass. They couldn't all die, at least one of them had to survive. In that time, Luxemburg came over her resurrection sickness and even decided to do surgery on Purple, who was missing a lung from a previous battle and needed a transplant. We had a spare one lying around from our organ harvesting phase, so that was no issue. Problem I had was A, Luxemburg was dead 2 days prior and was now doing a highly technical surgery, and B, Luxemburg was still jealous that Purple had a nicer bedroom. So there were multiple reasons why Luxemburg shouldn't do the surgery, but I let it go anyways since she was in the middle of it, and the surgery was ultimately a success. Pushing our close call with medical malpractice aside, a day later the toxic fallout cleared up, leaving almost every crop and natural vegetation dead. But it would grow back and the colonists could finally leave the interior of the base for the first time in a month. Almost on cue, as we were getting a taste of dopamine, the sheep started dying at a concerning rate from lung rot. But 10 of them did survive, so I'd say my gamble of waiting it out was a success. As we rebuilt what the fallout destroyed, the Mechanoids dropped by with another psychic drone ship. I didn't like the wide open terrain left behind as the aftermath of the fallout because that meant no cover for my colonists, so they would be easy targets. My solution was waiting to attack until a rapid pack of Megasloths spawned and I could use them as meat shields. As they ran towards my kill box, I waited for them to get right next to the Mechanoids and used a mortar to make them aggro onto each other. The Megasloths put up a spectacular fight for the first half, but even with 20 of them, the Mechanoids came out on top. So I picked up the fight at the end, finishing off the weakened centipede troops and their psychic drone ship, so my colonists didn't go crazy. Ultimately, the plan worked flawlessly, aside from the minor detail that Izzy lost her head. Quite literally. Exactly what I tried to avoid with the sloth distraction, but at least I could use another resurrection mech serum to bring her back. I don't want to make a habit of this, but I do have a couple serums in storage just in case. From that day forward, it was a repetitive cycle of raids attacking and me fixing any weak spots that I uncovered in my defenses. I learned that fire was a great defense if I had enough prep time, and that my choke point on the kill boxes had to be tightened because the Mechanoids were annoying and fired from a range, destroying my turrets without me able to hit them. Other than perfecting the base, I went to mining spots to get resources like compacted machinery parts or plasteel to grow my defensive turret arsenal. And when I felt a bit cheeky, I went on outpost raids to get rewards for quests and sent a message that I wasn't to be messed with by removing their outposts like it was never there. And that brings you all up to speed on what my colonists have fought through to get here. So let's do some finishing touches on our defenses and escape this planet. In this final preparation phase, it is important to keep in mind that we want to protect this rocket. Do I care about the colonists? Yes. But ultimately, we just need the rockets to survive. So to make that happen, we have 3 defensive kill boxes. There is the west, there is the south, and then there is the east. If any one of these falls, we do have a backup plan. So let's go through what that plan looks like. Starting with what our kill box is. We have a double thick layered wall, so hopefully the enemies can't break through them. They're also made out of plasteel, so extra durable. Behind that, there is barricades to slow down the enemies, turrets to pick off the weaker enemies, and then uranium slug turrets at the back that should be picking off the beefier Mechanoids. And then at the very far back, behind even a thicker wall of barricades, my colonists will be sitting behind these walls for max coverage, just trying to pick them off. There's ample amount of spacing, so should be able to lay down a lot of fire. Directly behind their shooting point is also a fire foam popper, so if there is fire launched through a mortar or doomsday cannon from the enemy, it should put out any fire, so my colonists don't have to worry about putting it out. And that layout is more or less what I have on the southern wall along with the eastern wall, with the only difference being on the western wall because that is where I have my mortars. So directly behind the fire line, I have mortars set up. These 3 right here are filled with EMP shells, so Mechanoids, they can get stunned. These 3 in this line have incendiary shells, so lays down suppressive fire as they try to get in. These back here are anti-grain warheads, which are essentially nukes that I fully tend to use on big raids. I just want to disappear so the battle's over before it even starts. And then these back here are just high explosive shells, all 6 of them, to lay down a barrage to weaken the raiders before they get to us. And the final part of our main offensive is this little shelf right here. Aside from just having a bunch of spare mortar shells for all the mortars, I also have a Hail Mary, oh crap, things are going bad. Envision, we are getting overwhelmed. Raiders are queuing up with their doomsday cannons. We are screwed. So I send one of my guys, they run up here, pick up either a triple rocket launcher or a doomsday cannon, run back, and then launch it into the crowd and get rid of the threat. So it's just not there anymore. I have that on the western wall, on the southern wall, and this little barrack right there, and then also on the eastern wall and this little nook. We have a few Hail Mary plans, but if things go even worse than that, on the eastern wall, we can fall back to segmented walls to just hide behind and try to pick them off as they funnel through. As for the southern wall, we have a ring of walls that we can also hide behind, try to pick them off. And then for the western, we have this segment wall right here. So we have a few places we can fall back to, won't be desirable, but ultimately we just want to protect our very valuable rocket. So I do have 3 turrets on either side of it to help fight if the enemies get inside of the compound. And in terms of defenses, that is basically everything, with the only other form of defense being this room right here. So I have this slight issue of insects infecting my base about once per year to just kind of rent it out as an Airbnb and chill. I don't like that. So now there are incendiary traps strewn throughout this room, ID explosives. I have turrets lining all of the walls. This is because I know they're going to spawn here. I've done everything to make them not. I have an AC unit to control the temperature. I have heat to control it in the winter. It's very well lit up. It has flooring. So I really don't know how to make it not infestable. So we are just going to take them out, hopefully. And this is also kind of my plan B, because down to the south, I have dug out yet another mountain. So in theory, this is damp, it's dark, they should spawn here first, so hopefully that works, fingers crossed, but I don't have high hopes. So that's about all of our physical structures. Of course, there's double thick layered walls just going around the entirety of the colony. And as for our living defensive mechanism, you can see the absolutely large fleet of megasloths traipsing around everywhere, eating way more corn than I would have liked. The wogs that are going in and out of my butcher area just to keep them fed, which has been a little bit of a challenge, but very good to have them. And of course, my very prized thrombos. I am very proud of them, and they are giving me a huge help. So 21 colonists, 76 wargs, 37 megasloths, and 2 thrombos is the number of soldiers we have to fend off all the raiders. And ultimately, I just plan to use the animals if we have to fall back to our secondary walls. Because if I'm up here at the front, they're probably going to walk into the turreted range and then get picked off, and that's just not a good situation. So they're going to be the backup whenever we fall back. And that is all we have in terms of defenses for the final raid. Before we trigger, I think it's kind of important to go through kind of what the base is and where everything's at, because it's going to look a lot different afterwards. So down in this bottom corridor is where I have my psychoid fields. Here are the different drug labs that are turning the psychoid leaves into our yayo that we use for trading. And in turn is used to armor my soldiers and then just buy more resources. Moving up from there, we have our permanent insect Airbnb, a secondary storage up here just for overflow. So we have a bunch of silver, 58,000 right now. So we are rolling in money. Steel that overflows and kind of whatever just doesn't fit in our other storage systems, along with a place for our wargs to sleep and then a secondary sleeping area, because apparently housing 76 of them is kind of hard to do. Then we have an escape plan where transport pods, if something goes wrong, we can load all of my colonists into these and then launch them somewhere on the map. Ultimately, I don't plan to use them, so they're there just in case. Then we have our solar and wind field. Inside the main structure right here is kind of our living quarters. So starting at the bottom, we have our dining hall, one of 3, a room where we have infinite chem reactors we got from quests, a vanometric power cell to give us power, then all of our batteries along with Venimon's burial site, a small rec room followed by an even bigger one that is extremely luxurious, kitted out with books, a pool table, poker, many statues of masterwork or legendary quality, TVs, horseshoe pit, kind of everything that my colonists need to be happy. Then on the left side, we have beds, followed by even more beds, and then a medical ward for injured people with the storage of all the medical equipment above that, then even more beds, followed by the beds that house the prisoners. Then below that, we have our scanners to find resources, and then our storage rooms for just kind of miscellaneous body parts, overflow of medical equipment, weapons, and then other ancillary stuff. Followed by our communication module that we can work with our allies to get reinforcements or coordinate trades. Then to the left of our housing area, we have our crafting sector, which is filled with clothing, huge backlog of armor, clothing we sell, places to craft even more stuff to sell. And then down here we have our fabrication tables that make the armor, parts, and weapons. And then over here is our art department where we just kind of make sculptures, make bricks that repair the walls, and then the sculptures can be sent up here to where they can be sold to orbital traders or other people who come to us. Then there's just some storage for hay for the horses, wood for whatever we need, crop fields up on the left and the right side, followed by a slaughterhouse, which is actually looking decently stocked right now, which is good because that's what's feeding our wargs. Then up here is where we process food for the colonists. So we have a year-round indoor growing plot, a bunch of storage that is very depleted right now, an even better dining hall that is so luxurious. Then we have our food crafting area, our ice box that really was underpowered when we had that extreme heat wave. But right now we are doing beautiful. We got our food on the bottom, meat on the top, and then a airlock area. So basically, whenever somebody goes in and out, this is room temperature. This is kind of middle ground, and then this is extremely cold. If I didn't have this one here, then this would constantly get warm, stuff would spoil, and that would be bad. And then the only thing left is we just have a stable area for the horses just wrapping around the base, giving a whole bunch of natural grass tiles to hopefully feed them, but it's kind of horrendously undersized, growing 53 per day and we eat 82, so that's why I have a hay production going on in the background. So we have our hay field up here and then another hay field down here trying to keep up with the animals. And that is what we're attempting to save during this raid. I've grown quite attached to this space and I'd hate to see it go. So for the final prep, I want to make my colonists even more overpowered. So I sent my final caravan to trade with all my neighboring allies to get some last minute supplies and to top off our relations to the max. That way, if I needed help in the final raid, they'd be more than happy to oblige. Once the caravan returned home, I used up the rest of the architect parts I had stockpiled to upgrade Leiko to be a super soldier just like Arcady, swapping out 2 of her bionic legs, 2 bionic arms, and 2 bionic eyes. Now able to run faster, shoot faster, and aim more accurately. Raiders wouldn't know what hit them with this beast on the line. With my 2 remaining architect legs and 1 arm, I upgraded Doug as well, so now if anyone tried to flee the battle, he could run even faster to get them. And to make my super soldiers more super, I had 7 shooting skill trainers from years of trading that I used to upgrade Leiko and Arcady to the max shooting level and distributed the rest to our weakest shooters to bring them more up to par. And for my last bit of preparation, I had an idea on how to bring back Venimon. In theory, I could run over to my storage and pick up a Resurrection Mech Serum, bring it on down to him, revive him, then run back up to there, grab our Healer Mech Serum, run it down to him, and heal his mangled brain scar. Because even after death, he still has that scar, so if I brought him back, he just still would have the same issues. And unfortunately, I was way too slow. His body has long since been desiccated, so I think, and that's why I can't use the Resurrection Mech Serum on him. So back to Sleepy Go Venimon. We will win this final raid for you. And this brings us to the moment where we start the final raid. But before I do, I have somehow forgotten one of my crewmates, and that is Cruncher, our dog that landed with us since day 1. So it wasn't really our first 3 original colonists, there was actually a 4th, and I kind of forgot about them because they have been retired for a decent amount of time. Their health could be doing a lot better from years of combat and old age, with combat taking their left paw, left kidney, left lung, tail, left ear, and now from old age having cataracts in both eyes and dementia. So she can't move that good, can't do operations that good, and can't eat that fast. But she's our first and only dog. So she's been retired from fighting since she clearly loses some body parts in that. And it's been my goal to escape this planet with her still alive. And I'm honestly surprised that we've made it this far with her still alive, because she is 19 years old with a life expectancy of only 12 years. But she is still with us and kicking, so you better believe I have a cryo tank on the rocket just for her. So without any further delay, let's launch this rocket.